we just have to grit our teeth and try and get through it without engaging in mutual self-destruction.
John Bolton, then, is the former U.S. National Security Advisor. Welcome back to the program, Ambassador.
Glad to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. I describe this as a fiasco. I suggest that's a fair description, whichever way you look at it. But what are your thoughts?
Well, it's just inconceivable to me that anybody in the positions of the people who were in this Signal chat group would set up a Signal chat group. The United States government over decades has spent billions of dollars creating the most secure communication capabilities that exist, and to trade that off for a theoretically encrypted commercial app is just stunning to me. The people who are in that group, almost all of them, have access to secure communications capabilities 24/7. I had secure phones, secure faxes, secure video in my home in a skiff built in the basement when I was National Security Advisor. When I traveled to and from the White House, I was in a Secret Service car with a secure phone. When I traveled overseas on military air, I had secure communication. The same is true for the Vice President, the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and the Director of National Intelligence, Director of the CIA. The idea that somehow it was inconvenient for them to use their secure communication is utter nonsense. And I think in the clip you just played, Senator Warner has made the dispositive point. If none of the material is classified, then make it public. They know it's classified. Some of the material that was revealed in the Atlantic article, I think, is clearly classified.
Yes. The journalist who had possession of this material, you'd think it wouldn't be hard for him to demonstrate that he does have this material in his possession, in which case, well, surely there would be offences under various pieces of law in America capable of being taken before a court. But, I mean, do you have any realistic expectation at all that would happen?
Well, from the point of view of the Atlantic magazine, Tulsi Gabbard, the director of national intelligence, has either committed perjury before the Senate Intelligence Committee by saying there's nothing classified, or she's given the Atlantic clear permission to go ahead and publish it. Now, what they'll do, I don't know. Obviously, I don't think there's going to be any investigation by the executive branch, and I don't think any of the people involved are going to suffer any disciplinary action from Donald Trump unless Trump himself begins to sustain political damage from this. This is how Trump operates. This is not about the national security. It's about what's good for Donald Trump. So he has rejected the idea that there's a problem here, demonstrating, at least as of now, he does not think he has suffered any political heat. We'll have to see what develops.
I mean, the Justice Department does, in theory, have independence of action, and there are investigatory agencies. But I think I sense pretty clearly you put no faith in those freedoms and independence being exercised.
Well, they're not really independent. I mean, it is the Constitution says, Article 2, Section 1, first sentence, the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States.
Yeah.
And the attorney general is the hand of the president in the legal sphere. So she is not independent, but that's the distinction that people have made up in recent years. But whatever you feel about that, I'll guarantee you this attorney general is not going to launch an investigation.
No. Now, what about the impact of all of this, if there's an impact, on the Atlantic alliance? To hear the European allies just dismissed in this way it's quite hard for some of those allies to listen to, you would imagine. Would it have any material effect on that relationship, do you think?
Well, I'm sure it'll have a negative effect. I think I've just written in Prospect magazine, published online today, in fact, for your UK listeners, that Europe needs to be very careful here. I have said repeatedly for the last 6 years that I'm worried that Trump will again try to withdraw from NATO, as he did at the NATO summit in 2018. And European reaction to some of the things that Trump has done, which are objectionable to be clear, but some of the European reaction, like Chancellor-designate Merz in Germany to say he wants German independence, Kaja Kallas, the EU foreign affairs person, who said we need a new leader for the West. These are dangerously close to permission slips for Donald Trump to withdraw. And he could say, well, the Europeans want to defend themselves. Fine, that's fine. We'll let them. We'll withdraw, and good luck to you. I think we've got to think past Trump. I understand how irritating this is, how bad it is. I probably agree with most of what the reaction in Europe is, but the world will last longer than the next 46 months of Donald Trump. And if we give the what used to be the Soviet Union one of its main Cold War objectives, which
Yeah.
is breaking up the West, we'll be doing it to ourselves.
But if your advice then to America's European allies is to look to the future, because this presidential term will not go on for forever, what should happen in the meantime? I mean, would you suggest, as an American former national security advisor, that the European allies should form their own defence partnership? Arguably, that would give another green light to President Trump to withdraw from NATO if that's what he was minded to do.
Well, that's right. But I think part of what's going on here are the theologians in the European Union are saying now we can finally have the European Union as a separate pillar within NATO. That to me guarantees the end of NATO as we do it.
Yeah.
Should European nation states, and there still are a few nation states in Europe, build up their own defense capabilities? Absolutely. Should we find other things that we can do together that might keep Trump involved, that would hold NATO together? My suggestion would be follow Jose Maria Aznar's idea, the former prime minister of Spain, to make NATO global, bring in other countries like Japan, Australia, Singapore, Israel, make it a global project that might attract Trump's attention. And let's get past the end of his term and not see the entire affair dissipated.
It would be dangerous, wouldn't it, for European leaders to even contemplate limiting the amount of intelligence material they share with America, because, well, America has a great deal more intelligence to share.
Yeah, well, it's a difficult time. I understand that, but I think this is a time to reflect before speaking. Trump doesn't do that. That is bad for the alliance. If European leaders get in the habit of doing it, it could be fatal to the alliance.
Yeah. What do you think they're thinking about this, Ambassador, in the Kremlin and in Beijing?
Well, they're popping the champagne. I mean, this is the best news they could possibly have. But in a certain sense, I think the clearer everybody is about what's going on here, this issue is with Donald Trump. This is not what the American people voted for in the November election. Nobody talked about selling out Ukraine to Russia. Nobody talked about invading Canada, Greenland, Panama, the Gaza Strip, you name it. The election was fought largely on economic and social issues, domestic matters. And I think Trump is in very dangerous territory for his own political sake when he does some of these things, not to mention the tariffs he's imposing and the trade war he's creating and the possible economic downturn that he could precipitate. We just have to grit our teeth and try and get through it without engaging in mutual self-destruction.
Okay. Ambassador John Bolton, grateful to you as always for joining me on the program. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.